I died because a delivery truck dropped a coil of industrial chain through the roof of a noodle shop, and the last thing I saw was 6 tons of steel coming down like an angry metal snake. When I opened my eyes, another chain was waiting for me, except this one was shorter than my arm, covered in rust, and being laughed at by an entire academy. I did not know where I was for the first 3 breaths. On the 4th, memories that were not mine slammed into my head. My name was Avenor. I was 17. I studied at the Royal Academy of Patrons, where every student received a blessing from a divine sponsor during the first-year ceremony. The stronger the patron, the better the class. The better the class, the better the future. The former Avenor had one problem. He had no family, no money, no political support, and one scholarship that depended on ranking above the bottom 10%. The hall around me was packed with students. Teachers sat on a raised platform. Crystal screens projected every result to the crowd. At the center stood a black altar covered in silver names. One name should have been mine. The patron of the Crimson Spear. The Academy had notified Avenor 3 weeks earlier that his combat compatibility was high enough to receive that contract. Instead, Keldan stood before the altar with a red spear floating over his hand. The hall exploded with applause. The examiner smiled so widely that I could count his teeth. An excellent result. Keldan has received an A-rank combat blessing. I looked at the list on the altar. My name had been scraped away from the Crimson Spear line. Keldan turned toward me. He was tall, clean, expensive, and wearing the kind of smile people used when they had already won and wanted you to understand that complaining would only make the loss more entertaining. Bad luck, Avenor. The students near him laughed. Bad luck. That was one way to describe having your contract transferred 12 minutes before the ceremony, because Keldan's family funded the Western Training Hall. A teacher named Kalanor cleared his throat. The allocation committee found a more suitable candidate. More laughter. I checked the borrowed memories again. Keldan's compatibility with the Crimson Spear had been 71%. Mine had been 86%. The result was not subtle. It was theft with polished shoes. Kalanor looked at me as if I were a stain that needed to be removed before lunch. Student Avenor, one unclaimed patron remains. Step forward. I walked to the altar. The crowd became quieter. Not respectful quiet. Hungry quiet. People loved watching a public disaster when it belonged to someone else. A line of gray light appeared over the altar. A voice spoke inside my head. It sounded old enough to remember mountains before they had names. Take the chain. A small iron loop rose from the altar. Then another. Then another. The entire divine blessing landed in my palm with a sad metallic clink. It was a chain, 83 centimeters long, 9 links. One side was orange with rust. Someone in the back shouted, "He got a leash!" The hall burst apart. Even one of the junior teachers covered his mouth. The crystal above me flashed my result. F rank. Unknown patron. Base strength increase, 0. Mana increase, 0. Defense increase, 0. Weapon resonance, negligible. My new memories gave me enough context to understand how bad that was. A normal D-rank blessing gave at least 5 points of improvement somewhere. A B-rank blessing could give 20. Keldan's A-rank spear had given him 34 strength and an active skill called Scarlet Breaker. My chain had given me nothing. Kalanor did not even try to hide his relief. There is no shame in changing departments. The logistics faculty accepts students with non-combat blessings. Keldan laughed. I heard they need someone to count chairs. The crystal ranking changed above us. My name dropped from 142nd place to 498th. Last. My scholarship indicator turned yellow. 1 week until review. I had inherited a body, a debt, and a divine dog leash. For some reason, I felt calm. Maybe dying under a ceiling-sized chain had improved my relationship with disappointment. I turned the rusty links over in my palm. The old voice returned. Bind what should not be bound. That was all. No glowing window appeared. No convenient book floated into my hands. I had one sentence and a chain that looked like it had spent 10 years at the bottom of a river. Then I noticed something. When Keldan walked past me, the last link moved. Only a little. It pointed toward his spear. I looked at him. The link pulled harder. Interesting. Keldan stopped at the foot of the stairs. "What are you staring at?" "Your blessing." His smile widened. "Want to see what a real one looks like?" He raised 2 fingers. Red light crawled along the spear in his hand. A pressure wave rolled through the hall. Several students stepped back. Scarlet Breaker, the strongest active skill among the first years. The rusty chain in my hand became warm. I finally understood what the divine voice had meant. Not his body, his ability. Kalinor ordered us away before Keldan could demonstrate the strike indoors. The ceremony continued. I left the hall with 497 people ranked above me and exactly 12 copper coins in my pocket. Neris followed me out. I knew her from Avanor's memories. She was a support track student who repaired training equipment for extra credit. She had dark hair tied behind her head and the habit of watching before speaking. She had not laughed. That made her unusual enough to notice. "You looked happy," she said. "I ranked last." "I know. My scholarship is about to disappear." "I know that too. And I received a rusty chain." She looked at the links. "Yes." I waited. She waited longer. Finally, I asked, "Why would I look happy?" "Because everyone else was watching your rank. You were watching Keldan's spear." I liked her immediately. Not romantically. I had been alive in this world for less than an hour. Even I had standards for emotional speed. "I need a training dummy that can use an active skill." Neris blinked. "Those cost 40 silver an hour." I checked my 12 copper coins. The financial situation had become funny enough to be offensive. "Do you know a cheaper option?" She pointed at herself. "My blessing creates a light shield. It is weak, but it counts as active magic." "How weak?" 6 points of barrier strength." "Can it stop a punch?" 1 punch." "Can you create it again after it breaks?" "After 20 seconds." "Perfect." We went behind the maintenance workshop, where old wooden targets leaned against a brick wall. 2 apprentices were stacking cracked practice swords nearby. They barely looked at us. Neris raised her palm. A thin disk of pale light appeared. "My shield lasts 10 seconds." I measured the distance. My chain was 83 centimeters long, too short to wrap around a person unless I was nearly hugging them. I stepped closer. Again. She recreated the shield. I threw the chain around her wrist. Nothing happened. One of the apprentices snorted. I tried again. Nothing. Neris tilted her head. "You said active magic." "I may have misunderstood the instruction." "Which instruction?" "An old god told me to bind what should not be bound." She stared at me. "That sentence sounds like the beginning of a very expensive problem." "Fair." I looked at the shield itself. The chain had moved toward Keldan's spear, not toward Keldan. So I threw it around the edge of the glowing disc. The iron links passed through the light. Then they snapped tight in midair. Neris gasped. Her shield vanished. Not broke, vanished. She tried to summon it again. Nothing happened. 1 second, 2, 3, 4. On the 5th second, the chain went cold. The shield appeared again. Nobody spoke. The 2 apprentices stopped stacking swords. Neris lowered her hand. "Do that again." We repeated it 12 times. The result was identical. If I successfully looped the chain through the active manifestation of her skill, the skill was sealed for 5 seconds. 5 seconds did not sound impressive until I remembered how long a real fight lasted. Keldan's Scarlet Breaker needed less than 1 second to kill an unarmored target. If I removed it at the right moment, his entire combat style developed a hole exactly 5 seconds wide. Neris tested a different support skill. The chain sealed that too. Then she tried both abilities in sequence. I threw at the smaller shield first. The chain ignored it. Instead, the lynx twisted in the air and caught her larger barrier. Neris stared at her empty palm. It chose the stronger skill. There it was, my single rule. After a successful bind, the chain sealed the target's strongest active ability for 5 seconds. Rank did not matter. That broke one of the basic laws of patron blessings. A lower-rank divine tool was not supposed to interfere with a higher-rank blessing. A first-year F-rank relic certainly was not supposed to cancel one. The 2 apprentices were now openly watching. One whispered, "That was a support blessing, right?" The other shook his head. "I don't know what that was." Good, neither did the academy. Then the chain changed. The 9th link shivered. A thin line of rust fell away. The chain became 84 centimeters long. Neris saw it too. "You gained a centimeter. After how many successful binds?" 12. We tested again. After 8 more successful binds, the chain gained another centimeter. The apprentices came closer. One measured it with a work ruler. 85. 20 successful binds against a weak support skill had produced 2 centimeters. That gave me a resource model. The chain grew from successful captures. The rate depended on something I did not understand yet. My stomach growled. Neris looked at me. "Have you eaten?" "Not in this life." She paused. "What?" "Nothing. The academy cafeteria sold stew for 9 copper. I had 12. Neris bought 2 bowls before I could object. The stew was thick with potatoes, carrots, onion, and strips of peppered beef. Steam carried the smell of garlic and roasted fat into my face. The bread was still warm. Butter melted into the center when I tore it open. After spending an hour discovering a law-breaking divine ability, eating hot bread felt strangely important. Neris pushed half her beef into my bowl. "You need protein if you plan to throw chains at people." "That sounds medically questionable." "So does being chosen by a forgotten god." Fair again. While we ate, the academy ranking board updated on the far wall. Keldan remained in first place. I remained in last. Then a new notice appeared. Open challenge evaluations would begin that afternoon. Any student in the bottom 50 could challenge another student for ranking points and prize money. A win against someone 200 places higher paid 3 silver. A win against someone 300 places higher paid 7. I had 12 copper. 7 silver was 700 copper. For the first time since waking up, the academy had shown me something beautiful. Neris followed my eyes. "No." I did not say anything. "You looked at the money first." "I looked at the educational opportunity." "You counted the money with your lips." I finished the bread. Then I was studying economics. The open challenge arena was already crowded when I arrived. Students loved 2 things more than class: food and watching low-ranked people make bad decisions. The registrar read my request twice. "You are ranked 498th. "Yes." "You want to challenge Draveno, ranked 187th. "Yes." He looked at my chain. "Do you owe someone money?" "Not yet." Draveno heard the announcement from across the arena. He laughed loudly enough to turn heads. He was a second-year repeater with a C-rank flame blessing and a reputation for breaking first-year weapons during sparring. He needed public wins because 3 disciplinary marks had put his dorm contract at risk. That was motive enough. He came into the ring smiling. "Avenor, right? The chain boy." A few spectators repeated it. "Chain boy." Simple insults were efficient. The judge checked our equipment. Draveno carried no weapon. He did not need one. His strongest ability was Flamehound, a burning animal made of compressed fire that struck independently while he cast smaller spells. The moment the judge raised his hand, red fire collected beside Draveno. The crowd leaned forward. I held the chain loose in my right hand. 85 centimeters, 5-second seal. Unknown growth rate against a stronger target. The judge dropped his hand. Draveno summoned the hound. It came at me like a furnace with teeth. I stepped inside its first lunge. The crowd shouted. Draveno was already lifting his hand for the follow-up spell. I threw the chain through the hound's neck. The links closed around fire. The hound disappeared. Draveno froze. His hand moved. Nothing happened. 1 second. I crossed the distance. 2 seconds. He tried to summon again. Nothing. 3 seconds. I hit his stomach with my shoulder. 4 seconds. He stumbled backward. 5 seconds. His magic returned. Too late. His heel crossed the boundary line. The judge's flag came down. Avenor wins by ring out! Silence hit the arena harder than any spell. Then 300 people started talking at once. Draveno looked at his hands. My skill failed. The judge looked at me. What did you do? I raised the rusty chain. Used my blessing. Someone in the crowd shouted, That thing has a blessing? Laughter came back, but it was different now. Nervous. Draveno's face turned red. Again. The judge shook his head. You lost. He cheated. With what? Draveno pointed at my chain. The judge stared at it. That did not help his argument. The result went onto the crystal board. My ranking jumped from 498th to 396th. The arena reacted immediately. 102 places in a single match. Prize payment? 7 silver. My 12 copper had become 7 silver and 12 copper. Power, money, status. All three moved at once. Then I felt weight in my hand. The chain had grown. Neris pushed through the spectators with a measuring cord from the workshop. She checked it twice. 93 centimeters. 8 centimeters from one successful bind. The difference was obvious. A stronger enemy produced more growth. The nearby students heard her. One repeated the number, then another. Within a minute, half the arena knew that the rusty chain had grown 8 centimeters after defeating Draveno. Draveno heard it too. His expression changed from anger to fear. The registrar approached me carrying the 7 silver prize. He handed it over slowly. Your next challenge will draw attention. That is useful. For whom? I looked at the ranking board. Kaldan's name still sat at the top. For me. That evening, Neris and I ate at a street stall outside the academy. I spent 1 silver on grilled chicken, flatbread, and a bowl of lentils cooked with tomato, cumin, and sweet onion. The chicken skin cracked under my teeth. Lemon juice ran over the roasted meat. After a day of public humiliation and divine weapon testing, the simple heat of the food made the world feel real. I paid Neris back for lunch. She accepted exactly 9 copper and refused the rest. You need training money. I have 6 silver left. You had 12 copper this morning. That is growth. You nearly got burned by a fire dog. That is also growth. She laughed for the first time. Then the chain moved under the table. Not toward a student, not toward a spell. Down. Every link pulled toward the ground. The metal became cold enough to sting my palm. A sound rose through the stones beneath the street. Clink. Then another. Clink. Slow. Heavy. Far below us. Neris stopped smiling. The cup in front of her trembled. The sound came again, and this time I knew exactly what it was. Something under the academy had just pulled on a chain much larger than mine. I woke before sunrise because the chain beside my bed was pulling toward the floor hard enough to drag a wooden cup across the table. The moment I touched it, the pull stopped. That was not comforting. My room was a narrow scholarship dorm with 1 bed, 1 chair, and a window that faced a brick wall. Yesterday I had been too tired to notice the crack in the ceiling or the cold air around the frame. This morning, both seemed luxurious compared with the idea of something underground tugging at my divine weapon while I slept. I measured the chain again. 93 centimeters. 11 links now instead of 9. The new links were darker than the old ones and almost free of rust. I had 6 silver and 3 copper after breakfast. My rank was 396th. My next scholarship review was 6 days away. Those were problems I could count. The underground chain was not. So I started with the problems I could count. At dawn, the Academy Challenge Board had 32 new requests with my name on them. Most were jokes. A student ranked 420th offered 1 copper to see whether my chain could bind a spoon. Another wanted me to challenge a goat. One message simply said, "Leash boy versus chair." The useful requests were lower on the board. 3 students above rank 200 wanted official matches. 2 wanted private tests. One request came from Sorinex, the field training instructor. "Report to the eastern yard before first bell." Neris found me staring at it. "You are famous." "I am being challenged by furniture." "That is a kind of fame." She held out a paper bag. Inside were 2 hot cheese rolls from the bakery near the tram gate. The crust was crisp and shiny with butter. The inside was soft, salty, and full of melted white cheese with chopped green herbs. I handed her 1 silver. She pushed my hand away. "Yesterday you bought dinner." "Yesterday I earned 7 silver." "Then save it." "I dislike debt." "You are not in debt." She tore her roll in half. "Now we each own half of both rolls. Problem solved." I considered the legal structure of that arrangement. It is terrible accounting. It is breakfast. We walked to the eastern yard, eating warm bread while students whispered behind us. The story had already changed overnight. According to one version, I had stolen Draveno's magic permanently. According to another, the chain was an S-rank relic disguised by rust. A third rumor claimed I was secretly the child of a prison god. That one was closest to the truth and still sounded ridiculous. Sorinex was waiting beside the beast pens. He was broad, gray-haired, and wore leather gloves scarred by claws. Unlike Kalinor, he looked at my chain before he looked at my rank. 24 students from the field class stood behind him. Good. Witnesses. Sorinex pointed at a cage. Inside was a stoneback boar the size of a small carriage. It had a D-rank hide and 1 active ability called Iron Rush. Once activated, the beast hardened its skin and tripled its charging force for 4 seconds. "Your blessing disabled a student ability yesterday," Sorinex said. "I want to know whether it works on monsters." "And if it does?" "The Academy pays for useful field data." "How much?" A few students laughed. Sorinex did not. 2 silver for a confirmed interaction. 5 if it changes our classification of your blessing." "Good." He opened the cage. The laughter stopped. The boar stepped into the yard. Its hooves struck the packed dirt like hammers. Sorinex gave me a padded vest. I refused it. He raised an eyebrow. "I need to move." "You also need ribs." "I plan to keep them." The students backed behind the safety line. Neris stayed beside the gate. The boar lowered its head. Gray light crawled over its shoulders. Iron Rush. I felt the chain become warm. That confirmed the ability was active. The beast charged. A carriage with anger issues would have been easier to negotiate with. I waited until the last moment. Then I stepped left and snapped the chain low. It caught 1 glowing foreleg. The links tightened. The gray armor vanished. The boar did not. Momentum still existed. That was an important lesson. It hit a training post and broke it in half. The yard went silent. I counted. 1 second. 2. The beast shook its head. 3. It tried to harden its skin again. Nothing. 4. 5. The gray armor returned. Sorinex whistled once. "It sealed the monster's active ability." One student said, "F-rank relics cannot do that." Sorinex looked at him. "You are observing that they can." The chain lengthened in my hand. Not by 1 centimeter. Not by 8. 11. Neris measured it in front of everyone. 104 centimeters. The field students immediately started talking. 11 centimeters from 1 D-rank monster. Yesterday's weak support skill had given 2 centimeters after 20 captures. Draveno's C-rank attack had given 8 after 1. The boar's ability had given 11. So growth did not depend only on nominal rank. It depended on the threat the bound skill represented to me. The boar could have broken my spine. The chain rewarded dangerous captures. That was the first hidden consequence. Risk mattered. Sorinex paid me 5 silver on the spot. My money rose from 6 silver and 3 copper to 11 silver and 3 copper. Then he did something more valuable. He signed a field use certification. My blessing classification changed from unknown utility to conditional combat control. The public board updated before the first bell. My status shifted again. Students stopped calling the chain useless. Now they called it suspicious. Progress. Keldan was waiting outside the tactics hall. He had 3 friends with him and enough spectators nearby to make the location convenient. His red spear rested over one shoulder. "I heard you attacked a pig this morning." "I won." A few students laughed. His smile tightened. "That is your level now? Farm animals?" "The boar was ranked higher than the last person I fought." That landed. Someone behind him made a choking sound. Dravino was not present, but the insult traveled fast enough that I expected him to hear it before lunch. Keldan stepped closer. "You think one trick makes you strong?" "No." "Then challenge me." "I will." He had expected refusal. His expression changed. "When?" "When the prize is worth the risk." The crowd reacted again. Keldan's family had money. His entire identity depended on looking generous and fearless in public. I had just placed a price tag on fighting him. He could not ignore it without looking cheap. "How much?" he asked. 50 silver. The corridor went quiet. 50 silver was more than 3 months of my scholarship allowance. Keldan laughed. "You do not have 50 silver." "I am not paying if I win." The crowd enjoyed that one. His face changed color. "Fine. 50 silver. Tomorrow." "No." "What?" "Official arena, public board, registered wager." "You are afraid I will refuse to pay?" "I am afraid your memory will become flexible after losing." Even one of his friends looked away to hide a smile. Keldan pointed the spear at my chest. "Tomorrow afternoon." "Good." He walked away to the sound of whispers. Neris appeared beside me. "You just agreed to fight the strongest first-year student." "I agreed to earn 50 silver." "He has 34 bonus strength." "I know." "Scarlet Breaker shattered a stone wall during testing." "I know." "His spear is longer than your chain." I looked down. 104 centimeters. "That is not comforting." "It is 11 centimeters more comforting than yesterday." She rubbed her forehead. The next class was combat theory. Kaliner entered 5 minutes late and immediately called my name. The room quieted. He had heard about the boar. He had also heard about the wager. "You are becoming disruptive." "I attended class on time." "That is not what I mean." He placed a report on the desk. "The Academy cannot encourage first-year students to exploit unclassified divine effects against classmates." "My blessing is now classified for combat control." His eyes narrowed. "Sorenex had no authority to approve tournament use." "He certified field use." "Exactly." There was his motive. Kaliner had signed the original transfer of my Crimson Spear contract. If my F-rank blessing became valuable, the allocation decision became embarrassing. If it became publicly stronger than Keldan's stolen A-rank blessing, embarrassing became dangerous. He needed me to remain a mistake. "Your match tomorrow is suspended," he said. The class reacted immediately. I did not. "Under which rule?" Kalinor's mouth tightened. "Safety review." "How long?" "Until the committee completes its evaluation." "When does the committee meet?" "Next month." There it was, a clean administrative murder. My scholarship review was in 6 days. Without ranked matches, I could not climb fast enough. Kalinor knew that. Keldan knew it too. News reached the corridor before class ended. By lunch, the story was that I had been banned because my relic was illegal. My ranking did not fall, but 3 scheduled challengers withdrew. My status stalled. Money stalled with it. Power alone would not solve paperwork. So I went to Sorenex. He read the suspension notice and grunted. "Kalinor is technically allowed to suspend academy duels." "Can he suspend field trials?" "No." "Can field trials affect rank?" Not normal ones. Not normal ones? Soranek smiled for the first time. There is a live qualification course every month. Students earn field points. Enough field points can be converted into ranking points. When is the next one? Today. Neris, standing behind me, made a small sound of disbelief. Soranex continued. Starts in 40 minutes. How many points? For a first-year student? Usually enough to climb 10 or 20 places. I needed more than that. What is the highest value target? His smile disappeared. The black-horned stag. How many points? 200. How dangerous. It hospitalized 3 second-year students last month. Neris said, No. I asked, active ability? Soranek sighed. Thunderstep. The stag accelerates in bursts. For about 3 seconds, it moves faster than most first-year students can track. How strong is it without Thunderstep? Still a monster with antlers. I thought about the boar. The chain had sealed the ability, but not momentum. A faster target would be harder to catch. That meant more danger. More danger meant more growth. Register me. Soranex looked at Neris. She looked at me. You are doing the money face again. I am thinking about scholarship points. You are also doing the chain face. I do not know what that means. It means you have decided something stupid and turned it into arithmetic. Soranex laughed. The live course took place in the Academy Reserve, a forested valley surrounded by observation towers. More than 80 students participated. Teachers watched from elevated platforms. Crystal lenses recorded every marked target. Perfect witnesses again. The rules were simple. Capture a marked beast or remove its token. Do not kill protected animals. Return before sunset. I entered with Neris as my registered support partner. Her barrier could stop one bad hit. More importantly, she could see magical activity earlier than I could. The first hour produced nothing useful. We passed 2 low-value horn rabbits and 1 sleeping mud lizard. Neris wanted to take the safe points. I refused. 5 points are still points. 5 points will not save my scholarship. Being alive will. That is why you are here. She stared at me. That was almost nice. It was resource allocation. There you are. We found the blackhorn stag near a stream. It was larger than a horse, with dark antlers that curved forward like hooked blades. A blue academy token hung from its neck. 2 second-year students were already hiding behind a fallen tree. One whispered, Do not go closer. It already broke a second-year shield. I ignored the warning and focused on the stag. The creature lifted its head. Electric light flickered around its hooves. Thunderstep. Neris whispered, Left. The stag vanished. I threw myself right. It appeared where I had been and tore a strip of bark from a tree with one antler. The second years ran. Not far. They stopped behind another tree to watch. Good enough. The stag turned. Electricity gathered again. My chain was barely over 1 meter, too short to catch it from a safe distance. I needed it close. That was unpleasant, but simple. Neris, barrier on me when I say now. You have a plan? Yes. Is it a good plan? No. The stag charged. Thunderstep activated. The world blurred. Now! Neris's pale barrier appeared in front of my chest. The stag struck it. The shield shattered instantly, but for 1 fraction of a second, the impact changed its direction. That was enough. I dropped under the antlers and wrapped the chain around one glowing foreleg. The links snapped tight. Thunderstep vanished. The stag stumbled. 1 second, I rolled aside. 2, it kicked. I felt wind from the hoof beside my head. 3, I grabbed the blue token. 4, the stag turned. 5, electric light returned. I was already running. The 2 second-year witnesses shouted behind us. One laughed like he had lost his mind. You sealed Thunderstep! The observation crystal above the trees flashed. Confirmed capture interaction. 200 field points. Then my chain hit the ground. It had become too long to hold off the dirt. Neris measured it after we reached the safe line. 137 centimeters. 33 centimeters gained from one bind. The largest increase yet. Students gathered around as the results spread through the reserve. The Blackhorn stag had been the highest value target on the course. A first-year F-rank student had taken it in under 2 hours. By sunset, my 200 field points converted into 112 ranking positions. I rose from 396th to 284th. My scholarship indicator changed from yellow to white. Not safe yet, but no longer dying. The field bonus paid another 12 silver. I now had 23 silver and 3 copper. Yesterday morning, I had owned 12 copper. Neris held up the measuring cord in front of a crowd of nearly 50 students. 1 meter and 37 centimeters. Someone whistled. Someone else said, "It grew 33 centimeters in one day." "No," Neris corrected. 44 since yesterday morning. That number moved through the crowd like fire. 44 centimeters. My chain had grown by more than half its original length in 2 days. Then Keldan pushed through the students. He looked at the chain. For the first time, he did not smile. "Tomorrow," he said. Kalinor suspended the match. "I know." Keldan held up a sealed challenge document. "I appealed to the student council. Field-certified blessings are legal in voluntary matches. Kalinor cannot stop it if both sides sign." That surprised me. Then I understood. Keldan needed the fight now. Every day my chain grew longer. Every rumor made his stolen blessing look less impressive. Waiting helped me and hurt him. He was not acting from courage. He was protecting his rank while he still believed he could. 50 silver? I asked. He pulled a purse from his belt and dropped it on the registration table. The coins made a heavy sound. 50. The crowd erupted. The match became official in front of everyone. Tomorrow afternoon, first-ranked Keldan against 284th-ranked Avenor. Scarlet Breaker against the Rusty Chain. I signed. The moment my pen left the paper, another sound rolled under the ground. Clink. This time everyone heard it. The registration table trembled, dust fell from the archway. The academy bells rang once without anyone touching them. Then the chain in my hand pointed straight down. Kalinor stood at the edge of the crowd. His face had gone completely white. He was not looking at me. He was looking at the floor. And under his breath, too quietly for anyone except Neris and me, he said one sentence. It hurt him. The third day began with 300 students waiting outside my dorm. That was too many people before breakfast. They filled the courtyard, leaned from windows, and stood on the low garden wall. Someone had painted a sign that said 50 silver for 5 seconds. Another student was selling small iron chains as souvenirs. I had been famous for less than 2 days and people were already making money from me. I respected the speed. Neris pushed through the crowd carrying a covered bowl. Do not look outside. I am outside. Then do not look emotionally. I do not know how to do that. She handed me the bowl. It contained rice porridge with shredded chicken, soft egg, green onion, and a little sesame oil. Steam warmed my face. Someone had added fried garlic on top. Eat, she said. You fight Keldan in 6 hours. 5 hours and 43 minutes. That is why I brought food instead of conversation. We sat on the dorm steps while hundreds of students pretended not to watch me eat. The rumor board had become a war zone. Half the academy thought Keldan would crush me in one strike. The other half had discovered gambling. The official betting hall gave Keldan odds of 4-1. A victory for me paid 4 silver for every 1 silver wagered. I considered using my own money. Neris saw my expression. No. I have 23 silver. No. If I wager 10 and win, I receive 40. You are already fighting for 50. That is unrelated revenue. You are not turning your own possible concussion into an investment portfolio. I finished the egg. I was thinking 5 silver. She pointed her spoon at me. 2.
3. 2. Agreed. I wagered 2 silver on myself. By noon, the line outside the main arena wrapped around the South Library.
The academy moved the match from a practice ring to the tournament platform because the smaller stands could not hold the audience. That gave me exactly what I wanted. Witnesses. Not 20, not 50. Almost 3,000 students, teachers, servants, visitors, and junior officers from the city guard. The ranking crystal hung above the arena. Keldan's name glowed at the top of the first-year board. Mine sat at 284th. Kalinor stood beside the referee. He had recovered his color after yesterday's underground sound. He had also found a new way to interfere. Due to the unknown nature of Avanor's blessing, he announced, this match will include an emergency stop condition. Any effect judged to threaten permanent damage to a divine contract will result in immediate disqualification. The crowd murmured. That rule existed nowhere in the standard duel code. Keldan looked pleased. I looked at the student council observer beside the platform. Does the condition apply to both fighters? Kalinor frowned. Of course. Then if Scarlet Breaker threatens permanent damage to my divine contract, Keldan is disqualified. The crowd laughed. Kalinor's jaw tightened. That is not what the rule means. Then please define permanent damage before the match begins. He hesitated. That was enough. The council observer spoke. The objection is valid. The emergency condition may stop the match for inspection, but disqualification requires proof of actual prohibited damage. The crowd reacted again. Kalinor had tried to create a weapon that only pointed at me. I made him explain it in public until the weapon became useless. That was my first victory of the day, and we had not entered the ring yet. Keldan walked onto the sand, wearing polished red armor. His spear burned with faint crimson light. I wore academy training clothes and held a chain 1 meter and 37 centimeters long. Visually, the match looked like a knight fighting someone who had escaped from a storage closet. The referee inspected us. Keldan leaned closer. You should have taken logistics. You should have taken your own patron. His expression froze. The people nearest the ring heard me. Then the sentence traveled outward in waves. Everyone knew the rumor about the transfer. Very few had heard anyone say it to Keldan's face. The referee raised his hand. I moved the chain into my left palm. Keldan noticed. He had studied yesterday's recordings. Good. I wanted him thinking about the chain. The hand dropped. Keldan attacked immediately. He did not use Scarlet Breaker. Smart. He stabbed with normal spear technique, using his 34 bonus strength and superior reach. I gave ground. The first thrust passed my shoulder. The second tore my sleeve. The third hit the chain. Metal rang. The crowd cheered for Keldan. He was faster than Draveno. More disciplined, too. He did not waste motion. He knew his strongest skill was the one thing I wanted, so he refused to activate it. That created a different problem for me. My chain could not seal what was not active. For 2 minutes, he pushed me around the ring with ordinary technique. I blocked twice, dodged 7 times, and nearly lost 3 fingers once. The crowd began chanting his name. Keldan smiled. You see the problem? Yes. You only have a trick if I use my skill. Yes. So I will beat you without it. That is the plan. His smile disappeared. I had spent the first 2 minutes measuring him. His normal thrust covered nearly 2 meters. My chain covered 1.37. I could not reach his body safely. But yesterday the chain had not needed Neris's body. It had bound her shield. It had not needed the boar's body either. It had bound the active magic on its leg. The target was not flesh. The target was the ability's manifestation. That was today's hidden consequence. If an active skill flowed through a weapon, I only needed the weapon. Keldan did not know that yet. I needed him to activate Scarlet Breaker exactly once. So I let him believe ordinary attacks were enough. I stumbled on purpose near the eastern boundary. The crowd shouted. Keldan saw the opening. He lunged. I barely moved aside. His spear tip cut my upper arm. Blood ran down my sleeve. Neris stood in the front row. Her face went still. Keldan saw the blood. His confidence returned all at once. I stepped back again, 1 foot from the boundary. He could win with one clean push. He raised the spear. Red light exploded along the shaft. The arena changed. Heat rolled across the sand. The ranking crystal flashed the skill name for the audience. Scarlet Breaker. 34 bonus strength became irrelevant. The active strike multiplied his force again and focused it into 1 point. A stone wall had failed against it. Keldan grinned. The crowd stood. Kalinor leaned forward. Neris whispered something I could not hear. Keldan drove the spear toward my chest. I did not retreat. I threw the chain around the glowing shaft. The links closed. Red light vanished. The arena made a sound like 3,000 people forgetting how to breathe. Keldan's spear continued forward as ordinary steel. I knocked it aside. 1 second. His eyes widened. 2. I stepped inside his reach. 3. He tried to call Scarlet Breaker again. Nothing happened. 4. I wrapped the loose end of my chain around his wrist. 5. His ability returned, but his spear was now trapped against his own arm. I turned my hip and pulled. Keldan hit the sand. The crowd exploded. He rolled, tried to stand, and I put 1 foot on the spear shaft. The referee counted. Keldan could release the weapon and keep fighting. He did not. The Crimson Spear was not just a weapon, it was his identity. He tried to overpower me. Without Scarlet Breaker, he was stronger. But strength worked poorly from the ground with your wrist caught and your spear pinned under someone else's heel. The count reached 10. The referee dropped his hand. Avenor wins by control! The arena became noise. People stamped on the benches. Students screamed my name. Someone threw a souvenir chain into the air. It hit another student in the head. Even victory had logistics problems. Keldan lay on the sand, staring upward. I removed the chain from his wrist and stepped back. He looked at his spear, then at me. You knew. Yes. You knew it would bind through the weapon. I suspected. You gambled the match on suspected? I wagered 2 silver, too. For 1 second, he looked personally offended by that detail. Then the ranking board changed. My name climbed. 284th, 201st, 143rd, 96th. It stopped at 82nd. A roar rolled through the stands. I had entered the academy ceremony in last place 2 days earlier. Now I was 82nd overall among the first years. Keldan fell from 1st to 9th. His fall shocked the crowd almost more than my rise. He had never been outside the top 3. The wager clerk brought the purse. 50 silver. The betting hall added 8 more from my 2 silver wager. After fees, my total wealth became 78 silver and 3 copper. I had multiplied my original 12 copper more than 600 times in less than 3 days. Then the chain grew. It did not add 30 centimeters. It added 62. The new link spilled over my hand and struck the sand. Neris entered the ring with the measuring cord while the audience watched. She walked backward and backward. 1 meter and 99 centimeters. The arena reacted to the number. Almost 2 meters. My chain was now longer than Keldan's spear. That mattered immediately. Yesterday, I had needed danger close enough to touch. Today, I had reach. Power had moved again. Money had moved. Status had moved. Kalinor entered the arena before the applause faded. He looked at Keldan, then at the chain. Inspection. The crowd quieted. He held out his hand. Give me the relic. No. A murmur passed through the stands. Kalinor's voice sharpened. This is Academy property until your graduation. That was false. I knew it from Avenor's memories. Patron relics belonged to the blessed student unless the divine contract itself stated otherwise. I raised my voice enough for the nearest crystal recorder. Please cite the ownership clause. His hand remained extended. You are refusing a direct instruction from faculty. I am asking whether you are ordering me to surrender privately owned divine property without a written seizure notice. The student council observer stood. Now Kalinor had a problem. He could continue and create an official record. or retreat in front of 3,000 witnesses. His face tightened. I am requesting voluntary inspection. Then I decline. Laughter broke across the arena. Kalinor turned toward the observer. This relic may be dangerous. The observer replied, Then file for formal review. More laughter. Kalinor's authority did not vanish, but his attempt to take the chain did, publicly, exactly where he least wanted to lose. He walked away without looking at me. That was the second face slap of the day. Keldan sat up slowly. I offered him a hand. He stared at it. For a moment I expected another insult. Instead, he took it. You still stole my first place. You stole my patron. His grip tightened. My father arranged the transfer. I did not know until that morning. I believed half of that, enough to remember it. Then you had 2 days to give it back. He released my hand. Fair point. He walked out of the ring to a mixture of silence and whispers. He had lost publicly, but I had learned something important. Keldan was arrogant. He was not simple. That made him more useful and more dangerous. Before lunch, the public crystal confirmed my first-year rank at 82nd, my provisional combat classification, and 3 verified victories. A souvenir seller paid 8 silver to use my name. I spent 12 silver on reinforced gloves, training boots, a padded coat, medical salve, and food. For the first time, my equipment matched the risks I was taking. The food was the best investment. Neris and I found a small restaurant near the river where the owner cooked lamb slowly with tomatoes, garlic, and dark spices until it could be pulled apart with a spoon. He served it over rice with roasted peppers and thick yogurt. Fresh flatbread came from a stone oven, blistered at the edges and brushed with butter. My arm hurt. My fingers hurt. The lamb made both injuries less important. Neris watched me finish a second plate. You eat like you are preparing for a siege. I died before finishing lunch once. She stopped moving. I had said it without thinking. The restaurant noise continued around us. What does that mean? She asked. I tore a piece of bread. I had no reason to tell her the full truth. I also had no good reason to lie. I remember another life. She waited. In that life, a chain killed me. Her eyes moved slowly to the iron links beside my chair. That is a terrible joke. It was a terrible lunch. She stared for another second. Then she pushed the plate of roasted peppers toward me. You can explain the impossible reincarnation after dessert. That was why she was the first person I trusted. Not because she believed me immediately. Because she did not make my strangest sentence more important than the fact that I needed to eat. Dessert was honey cake with walnuts. I explained enough, not everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked one question. Does Avenor still feel like your name? I thought about it. Yes. Then I will use it. Simple. Warm. More useful than a dramatic oath. We left the restaurant after sunset. My remaining money was 74 silver and 3 copper after the licensing payment came through. The chain dragged lightly against the stones unless I looped it twice around my waist. 2 meters of iron was no longer a pocket item. When we reached the academy gate, every bell began ringing. Not one. All of them. Students poured into the courtyard. A black carriage had stopped beneath the main arch. Its door carried the silver mark of the Capital Tournament office. Kalinor stood beside it with 3 senior teachers. He looked pleased again. That was a bad sign. A man stepped from the carriage wearing a dark coat with a champion's crest at the collar. I knew the face from every tournament poster in the academy. Valor, National Academy champion, winner of 41 official duels, holder of the legendary active skill Heaven Split, the strongest student under 20 in the eastern provinces. The courtyard became silent. Valor looked past the teachers, past Kalinor, past the crowd, straight at me. Then his eyes dropped to my chain. He smiled. Good, he said. It really is the same metal. On the 4th morning, my chain pointed at Valor before I could see him. That was how I learned that a legendary skill did not need to be active for my relic to recognize the place where it would appear. He stood on the far side of the central courtyard with Kalinor and a woman from the capital tournament office. The woman was Isren, a senior examiner whose signature could approve or destroy an academy's tournament license. Valor noticed the chain lifting from my belt. His smile disappeared. Isren noticed too. "Again," she said. "I did not do anything." "Exactly." She walked toward me while 200 students formed a circle at a safe distance. News had spread faster than breakfast. The national champion had arrived because of the chain. The academy had not announced why. That made the rumors worse. One rumor said Valor was here to recruit me. Another said he was here to execute me. A third claimed we were brothers. We did not look remotely related. People were creative when facts were unavailable. Isren stopped one step away. "Your relic reacts to Valor." "Yes." "Why?" "I do not know." Kalinor spoke from behind her. "He has repeatedly refused proper inspection." I looked at Isren. He repeatedly tried to take it without paperwork. The students around us made appreciative noises. Kalinor's face tightened. Isren did not smile. "Good. Then we will use paperwork." I liked her immediately for different reasons than Neris. Isren produced a sealed document. Voluntary examination. No transfer of ownership. No destructive tests. All findings copied to the student. Compensation of 20 silver for participation. "How long?" 1 hour. "Public?" She looked at the crowd. "Apparently." "I agree." Kalinor looked disappointed. The examination took place on the central training platform. Isren brought 3 test relics, 1 C-rank shield, 1 B-rank sword, 1 sealed A-rank focus stone. None made the chain react. Then Valor stepped onto the platform. The chain lifted by itself. Every link pulled toward his right hand. Valor raised that hand. Nothing visible happened. The chain pulled harder. Isren's eyes narrowed. "Activate a minor skill." Valor created a small wind blade. The chain did not move toward it. Instead, it continued pointing at his empty right hand. The crowd murmured. Heaven Split was not active. Yet the chain seemed to know where the skill lived inside his divine contract. That was new. The chain did not merely react to magic. It recognized the strongest bindable ability in a target and preferred it even before activation. Not enough to seal it, but enough to reveal it. A hidden active ability was not hidden from the chain. Useful. Dangerous. Valor lowered his hand. "You see why I came?" "No." He looked at Isren. She nodded once. Valor pulled a small black case from inside his coat. Inside lay 1 broken iron link. It was as thick as my thumb. The metal was dark and rough. My chain snapped toward it. The sound of iron striking iron cracked across the platform. The crowd went silent. Same material. I did not need a laboratory to know it. My palm became cold. The voice of the old god whispered inside my head. "Below." 1 word. Valor closed the case. 3 years ago, workers found that link in a collapsed tunnel under the capital arena. Kalinor interrupted. "That information is restricted." Isren looked at him. "Not anymore." Public face slap number 1 of the morning. Valor continued. "The tunnel was older than the arena, older than the capital wall. We found carvings of chained figures, but no record of the god who made them." I looked at Kalinor. "You recognized the sound 2 nights ago." Every student near us turned toward him. He froze. "I recognized nothing." "You said it heard him." Neris stood at the edge of the platform. "I heard it too." Kalinor's eyes moved toward her. That was a mistake. The crowd saw it. Isren saw it. Valor saw it. Suddenly, this was not one low-ranked student accusing a teacher. It was a witness statement in front of the capital examiner. Isren said, "We will discuss that privately." Kalinor replied, "Of course." His voice was calm. His hands were not. The examination ended with 20 silver added to my account.
My wealth rose to 94 silver and 3 copper. Then Isren made the day more complicated.
The Academy's regional qualifier begins at noon. I knew that tournament. Normally, first years below rank 50 could not enter. I am ranked 82nd. Your combat classification changed after yesterday's match. Under capital rules, any student with 3 verified victories may enter the open bracket. Kalinor spoke quickly. His victories are provisional. Isren held up Sorenex's field certification. No, they are not. Public face slap number 2. Students started laughing before Kalinor could answer. His reputation was beginning to lose fights faster than Kaldan had. Isren continued. Qualifier prize for reaching the final is 30 silver. Winner receives another 70, direct entry into the capital tournament, and academy rank review. 100 silver total. My financial brain woke up fully. Neris saw it from 10 meters away. She mouthed one word. No. I ignored her. I enter. The qualifier used 4 rings at once. More than 1,000 spectators filled the stands by midday. City merchants came because Valor was present. Students from other academies arrived in uniforms I did not recognize. My first opponent was ranked 61st. His strongest ability created 3 rotating blades of compressed air. The moment he activated them, the chain pulled toward the fastest blade. I threw once. The chain caught the wind like it was rope. The 3 blades vanished together. 5 seconds later, he could cast again. He never got the chance. I used my extra reach to hook his ankle and pull him across the boundary. The fight lasted 19 seconds. The crowd reacted louder than the fight deserved because they had never seen wind tied in a knot before. The chain gained 14 centimeters. My rank moved from 82nd to 64th. Second round. My opponent used a stone armor skill. The chain pulled toward his chest before activation. That told me where the strongest effect would concentrate. When stone covered his body, I did not try to wrap him. I hooked one glowing plate over his shoulder. The armor vanished. He was still charging when his protection disappeared. He realized this halfway through the charge. His face became educational. I stepped aside and he ran directly into the padded wall. The crowd laughed for nearly a minute. The chain gained 17 centimeters. My rank moved to 49th. That was the next micro-peak. I had entered the top 50. The scholarship crystal changed from white to green, guaranteed for the next term. 3 days earlier, I had been 1 week from losing my place at the academy. Now the scholarship was safe. Neris met me under the stands between rounds with a bowl of cold noodles covered in sliced cucumber, shredded chicken, sesame paste, and chili oil. You are bleeding again. I looked at my elbow. Barely. Eat. That is your treatment for everything. It has worked so far. The noodles were cool and nutty, with enough chili to make my nose burn. Pickled vegetables snapped between my teeth. She had also brought iced plum tea. Around us, students argued about my next match. A merchant paid 20 silver for a short interview, raising my wealth to 114 silver and 3 copper before the 3rd round. Status rose too. A city paper called me the Rust Chain Rookie. I disliked the name until the issue sold out. The 3rd round was where Kalinor tried again. My opponent was Sorenex's strongest field student, a 3rd year ranked 12th overall. That made no sense in a first-year regional qualifier. I looked at the bracket. His name had been added after registration closed. Sorenex stood near the judges' table looking furious. I did not submit him! Isren examined the paper. Kalinor said, Open bracket rules allow substitutes. Not after the draw, Isren replied. The academy has local discretion. Not in a capital-sanctioned qualifier. Kalinor's mouth became a thin line. The crowd had noticed the delay. Whispers spread. My opponent looked embarrassed rather than hostile. He had probably been ordered into the match. That mattered. I did not need to humiliate someone for following a direct faculty command. I needed the person who had arranged it to own the result. So I raised my voice. I accept the opponent.
Neris nearly dropped the water flask. Kalinor smiled. Isren looked at me. You are not required to. I know. The crowd quieted. But if I win, I want the match recorded as valid for rank and prize. Isren considered it. Agreed. Kalinor's smile faded slightly. My opponent entered with a heavy training sword. His name did not matter to the story. His ability did. Mirror Guard. It reflected the first direct magical attack that struck him. Against most first-year students, it was almost unfair.
Against me, it created a question. Was binding considered an attack? The referee started the match. Mirror Guard activated. Silver light covered his sword and chest. My chain pulled toward the light. I threw. The chain touched the silver field. For one instant, I felt resistance. Then the chain snapped around the reflected magic itself. Mirror Guard disappeared. Nothing came back at me. The audience made a single, shocked sound. The opponent stared at his sword. So it is not an attack. That was another consequence of the same rule. The chain did not damage an ability. It imprisoned it. Reflection required an incoming attack. A bind was not one. That distinction was going to matter against much stronger defenses. The third year recovered quickly. He was better than Keldan with a weapon and far stronger than me physically. For almost 4 minutes, I did nothing but survive. He struck my padded coat twice. One hit knocked the air out of me. The other sent me to one knee. The crowd quieted. Kalinor relaxed. But the third year had one problem. Every time Mirror Guard returned, the chain pointed to it before he activated. I knew exactly when he planned to use his strongest ability. By the third cycle, I could read his rhythm. He stepped in. I moved back. He raised the sword. Silver light formed. I threw early. The chain was already in the air when Mirror Guard activated. It closed instantly. 5 seconds. He realized too late that I had changed targets. I was not trying to defeat him with force. I looped the remaining chain around the central ring post, then around his sword arm. He had enough strength to drag me. He did not have enough strength to drag the stone post. The crowd stood. He tried to release the sword. I kicked it away. The referee called control. 10 seconds later, the match ended. I had beaten the 12th-ranked third year because Kalinor had illegally inserted him into my bracket. The arena became chaos. Students pointed at the faculty box. Someone started chanting Kalinor's name in the same tone people used when a cook dropped a pot. Not admiration, pure public mockery. Isren walked to the center of the ring. The substitution was unauthorized. Because Avenor accepted voluntarily, the result stands. The Academy will receive a formal compliance warning. Every eye turned toward Kalinor. He remained seated. He had wanted a stronger opponent to stop me. Instead, he had given me a stronger victory. The chain grew by 48 centimeters. Neris measured it in front of the referee. 2 meters and 78 centimeters. The number drew another roar. My rank jumped from 49th to 27th. The qualifier final was now mine to reach. The 30 silver finalist payment entered my account. 144 silver and 3 copper. Power, money, status. Again. Then Isren announced the final opponent. She did not need to say the name twice. Valor had entered the open qualifier under champion exemption. The stands became silent. He walked onto the opposite side of the arena without armor and without a weapon. He did not need either. Heaven Split was classified as legendary. One strike of compressed space, one straight line. Everything in that line broke. The final would take place tomorrow at noon because capital rules required recovery time after 3 matches. Valor looked at my chain. 2 meters and 78 centimeters. Yes. Tomorrow it will need to cross 6. Why 6? That is how far away I can kill you. The crowd reacted with nervous silence. He did not say it like a threat. He said it like weather. Then he held up his right hand. My chain pulled so hard that one loop tore free from my belt. Valor did not activate Heaven Split. Still, the iron links stretched toward him. And from somewhere deep below the arena, something answered. Clink. The stone under Valor's feet cracked. Not from his skill, from below. A second crack crossed the ring, then a third. For one heartbeat, I saw darkness between the stones. Far under us, much deeper than any cellar, an iron surface moved. It was too wide to be a chain link. Then it moved again, and I understood the scale. The curved black shape below the arena was only one side of a link. A single buried link was larger than the entire tournament ring. On the fifth morning, the academy served me breakfast for free. That was how I knew my social status had become dangerous. The cafeteria manager brought fried eggs, roasted potatoes, sausage, fresh bread, and thick yogurt with honey. Neris sat across from me and made sure I ate instead of reading sponsorship contracts. The food was hot, rich, and simple. Exactly what I needed before fighting the undefeated champion. Outside, the academy sounded like a festival. The final had attracted more than 5,000 people. City guards controlled the gates, merchants sold chain-shaped food, and the betting hall favored Valor 9-1. I had 144 silver and 3 copper, and I wagered 5 silver on myself before Neris could object. Keldan joined us before we left and handed me Valor's public match record. 41 official victories. No losses. Only 4 opponents had lasted longer than 3 minutes. Keldan pointed out that Valor never used Heaven Split twice from the same angle. He claimed he was helping because my victory would make his own loss less embarrassing. The arena stones had been repaired overnight. The crack from the giant buried link was covered by new plates and 2 layers of reinforcement magic. Nobody believed the problem was solved. Thousands of spectators watched the floor almost as much as they watched us. Isren stood as chief referee. Sorinex controlled the safety team. Kalinor sat in the faculty section under official observation. He had not been removed yet. Isren's investigation needed evidence. Kalinor knew that too. Valor entered without a coat this time. He wore a simple black training uniform. No weapon, no armor. He looked less like a champion and more dangerous because of it. I entered with 2 meters and 78 centimeters of dark iron wrapped around my waist and forearm. The crowd began chanting before we reached our marks. Some shouted Valor, some shouted Avenor. Someone shouted chain sausage. Even history had bad seats. Isren raised one hand. The final is an official capital qualifier match. Victory by surrender, ring out, loss of consciousness, or 10-second control. Lethal force is prohibited. Both fighters confirmed voluntary participation. She looked at me. Ready? Yes. She looked at Valor. Ready? Yes. Her hand fell. Valor attacked with no warning. He crossed 3 meters before I finished my first breath. No heaven split, just speed. His palm hit my shoulder. I turned enough to avoid a full strike. The force still sent me rolling across the sand. The crowd roared. I stood before he reached me again. He kicked low. I jumped back. His second palm passed my face. He was not physically overwhelming because of some hidden strength bonus. He was simply better. Years of tournament experience had compressed every movement. No waste, no panic, no need to prove anything. For the first minute, I could not touch him. Valor stayed just outside my reach, entered only when he chose, and punished every slow movement. He knocked me down once and kicked the chain out of my hand. Then, instead of taking the free advantage, he kicked it back to me. He wanted to defeat the blessing itself, not win by removing my weapon. The audience understood the difference. So did I. Beating him would actually mean something. I picked up the chain. Valor raised his right hand. My lynx snapped toward it. The crowd stood. The air around his fingers bent. There was no bright flame, no lightning, no giant weapon. The space in front of his hand simply became wrong. Heaven split. The strongest active skill in the regional student circuit. Range, 6 meters. Activation time, less than 1 second. My chain, 2 meters and 78 centimeters. Valor was 5 meters away. Kalinor smiled. He thought the distance solved everything. It did not. I had realized the answer yesterday. I did not need to reach Valor. I needed to reach the ability. Heaven split crossed the distance between us. Valor struck. A line appeared in the sand, not a cut, an absence. Stone at the edge of the ring split before the force even reached me.
I waited until the distortion entered my range. Then I threw the chain around empty air. The links closed. The impossible line stopped. For one heartbeat, the entire arena saw a legendary attack hanging in space with an iron chain wrapped around nothing.
Then, Heaven Split vanished. Silence. Valor's hand remained extended. 1 second. I ran. 2. His eyes widened for the first time. 3. He tried to activate the skill again. Nothing. 4. I crossed the distance. 5. His ability returned. So did his smile. He blocked my first strike, caught my wrist, and threw me over his shoulder. I hit the sand hard. The crowd exploded. He had lost Heaven Split and still put me on the ground. Then my chain grew. New links erupted across the sand with a deep metallic sound. 1 meter, 2, 3. They kept coming. The audience began shouting numbers. Neris ran along the boundary with the measuring cord. When the growth stopped, she stared at me. 5 meters and 91 centimeters. The crowd became louder. A single successful bind against Heaven Split had added 3 meters and 13 centimeters. Danger mattered more than rank, and nothing I had ever bound was more dangerous. Valor looked down at the chain now lying almost between us. Still short of 6. By 9 centimeters, he laughed. Bad luck. People keep saying that to me. He attacked again. This time the match changed. With almost 6 meters of reach, I could control space around me. I swept low. He jumped. I reversed the chain. He ducked. He closed distance. I wrapped one loop around my forearm and blocked his wrist. He struck my ribs. I hooked his ankle. He rolled free. The crowd stopped chanting names. They were too busy reacting to every exchange. For 3 minutes, neither of us controlled the fight. Valor was stronger, faster, and technically better, but almost 6 meters of chain changed the geometry of the arena. He could no longer stand wherever he wanted. My blessing had not given me a single point of strength. It had only given me one rule: bind the strongest active ability. Everything else came from understanding that rule. Valor stepped outside my range. Exactly 6 meters. The audience understood. So did I. He was going to use Heaven Split again. Neris gripped the rail. Keldan stood behind her, silent. Isren raised one hand toward the safety team. Valor's right hand came forward. Space bent. I threw the chain. Too short. The last link passed 9 centimeters from him. Heaven Split fired. I did not try to reach his hand. I caught the attack again. The chain closed around the distortion. The skill vanished. The crowd screamed. Valor moved immediately. He had expected the bind. He used the 5-second seal as a timer. 1 second. He ran toward me. 2. I pulled the chain back. 3. He entered striking range. 4. His fist came toward my jaw. 5. Heaven Split returned, and my chain grew again. The new link formed while Valor was inside my reach. 9 centimeters would have been enough. The chain gave me 1 meter and 46. I snapped it around his right wrist. Valor froze. Heaven Split had just returned. He began the final strike. The strongest skill in the arena activated at point-blank range. Then the chain recognized it. The links tightened. Heaven Split disappeared before the strike completed. Exactly the scene everyone would remember. The undefeated champion stood 1 step from victory. His legendary ability vanished from his hand. 5,000 witnesses saw it. Valor looked at the chain around his wrist, then at me. 1 second too early, he said. For you. I turned, dropped my weight, and used the chain around his arm as leverage. He resisted. I could not overpower him, so I did not try. I stepped past him and wrapped the loose end around the arena post. The same solution that had beaten the 3rd year. Valor saw it. He laughed even while fighting the pole. You really like posts. They are reliable. 1 second. 2. He tried to break the chain physically. It did not move. 3. The links had become thicker after binding Heaven Split twice. 4. Valor changed direction, trying to unwind himself. 5. His ability returned. He could have fired Heaven Split through the post. He did not. The strike would have crossed the crowd behind it. That was why the tournament champion had 41 wins and no deaths. He controlled himself. That choice cost him the match. The 10-second control count ended. Isrin dropped her hand. Avenor wins. For half a second, nobody reacted. The words were too large. Then the arena became a storm. People stood on benches, students threw hats into the air. The chain merchants screamed louder than anyone. The official crystal erased Valor's undefeated mark. 41 victories, 1 loss. My rank changed so fast I could barely follow it. 27th, 18th, 11th, 6th, 3rd. 1st among Academy first years, 8th on the combined student combat board. The boy who had been ranked 498th 5 days earlier was now 8th in the entire Academy. The crowd saw every number. The reaction became even louder. The winner's 70 silver, my betting payout, and a new sponsorship pushed my wealth to 294 silver and 3 copper. 5 days earlier, I had owned 12 copper. Power, money, and status had all climbed from the bottom in front of the entire Academy. Valor held out his hand. I released his wrist. He examined the red mark left by the chain. No damage to the contract. Isren checked with a testing crystal. Confirmed. Heaven Split is intact. She raised her voice for the audience. The F-rank relic did not steal, copy, weaken, or damage the legendary skill. It sealed activation temporarily. That announcement mattered. The Academy had spent 4 days calling my blessing unknown, suspicious, dangerous, and possibly illegal. Now the Capital Examiner had defined it in public. A legitimate combat blessing. An F-rank relic that could temporarily seal a legendary active skill. The ranking board added a new title under my name. Provisional classification, unique control type. The stands erupted again. Then Kalinor stood. Enough! His voice carried through the amplification crystal. The arena quieted slowly. He came down from the faculty section holding a black document case. His face looked calm. Too calm. This event is suspended. Avenor's relic is connected to restricted infrastructure under the Academy. For public safety, he must surrender it immediately. There it was. His final move. Not a duel. Authority. 5 days ago it would have worked. Nobody would have cared if the last ranked scholarship student lost a rusty chain. Now 5,000 people were watching. Isren stepped between us. On whose order? Kalinor opened the case. A sealed directive lay inside. Academy Security Council. Isren took it, read it, then looked at him. This was signed 11 years ago. The crowd reacted immediately. Kalinor said nothing. Isren continued. It authorizes containment if the underground seal becomes active. She turned the page. It does not authorize seizure of a student's patron relic. Kalinor's voice sharpened. You do not understand what is below us. Then explain it. Silence. He looked at the stands, at the students, at the teachers, at me. Finally, he said, the Academy was built over a prison. Nobody laughed. The founders found the chains before they built the first hall. They believed the buried structure contained a hostile divine entity. The Academy exists here because generations of barrier mages have reinforced the seal. I looked at my chain. And the god of the iron chain? Kalinor's face tightened. Was erased from official records. Why? Because every recorded appearance of that patron was followed by movement below. There was the distant institution, not only Kalinor, not only the Academy. Someone had deliberately removed a god from history. Isren asked, who ordered the records erased? Kalinor did not answer. Valor did. The Capital Patron Council. The arena exploded with whispers. Isren turned toward him. Valor looked at the broken link case near the judges' table. The same council that sealed the tunnel under the Capital Arena 3 years ago. Kalinor closed his eyes. He had lost control of the secret, publicly. That was the final humiliation. Not because I insulted him, because his own attempt to seize the chain forced the truth into the open in front of thousands of witnesses and a capital examiner. Isren removed the Academy crest from Kalinor's access badge. Pending investigation, your authority over divine contracts is suspended. The crowd made a low, shocked sound. 5 days ago, he had told me to count chairs. Now he had lost the office that let him decide who received a patron. Keldan watched from the front row. His expression was unreadable. Then the ground moved. Not shook, moved. The entire arena shifted sideways by several centimeters. Stone screamed against stone. People fell from benches. Sorinex shouted for evacuation. Neris jumped the barrier and ran toward me. The chain around my arm became freezing cold. Every link pointed down. Then the old god spoke again. "Open the way." I looked at the cracked center of the ring. A black line appeared between the new stones. It widened. A section of the arena floor collapsed. Dust rose. The safety barriers caught the nearest spectators. When the air cleared, a staircase was visible below. Not Academy construction. The steps were black iron. Each one was wider than a door. Kalinor whispered, "That entrance has been sealed for 11 years. I looked at him. Not anymore. Isren ordered the arena evacuated, but she did not order me away. Valor picked up the broken link case. Keldan came down from the stands with his spear. Sorinex joined the safety team at the opening. Neris stood beside me. "You are going down there." "Yes." "That was not a question." "I know." She exhaled through her nose. "Then I am coming." "No." Her expression became dangerous. I continued before she could speak. "You stay at the top until Sorinex confirms the stairs are stable. Then you come." She considered that. "Acceptable." Warmth in a very strange form. I descended first with Valor, Isren, and Sorinex behind me. Keldan remained at the entrance with the guards. The stairs went down farther than the Academy foundations should allow. 10 meters. 20. 30. The air became colder. My chain dragged toward the darkness. At 40 meters, the staircase opened into a chamber so large, my mind rejected it at first. The Academy above us was not built over a prison cell. It was built over one link. A chain crossed the underground abyss from one wall to another. Each link was wider than a house. Another chain descended vertically into darkness, then another, then dozens. Tower-sized iron links vanished into the black below. Valor opened his small case. The broken fragment inside matched perfectly. Isren whispered, "The capital tunnel." Sorinex looked upward. "These chains continue beyond the Academy." I understood before anyone said it. The underground structure was not local. It stretched beneath cities, maybe beneath kingdoms. My little chain was not a strange weapon inspired by this place. It was part of the same system. The old god spoke one last time. Not inside my head this time. The voice came from the iron around us. Every giant link vibrated. "I am the keeper." The chamber shook. Valor stepped back. Isren went pale. The voice continued. "Not the prisoner." One of the massive chains below us snapped tight. The sound was so deep I felt it through my bones. Something moved far under the darkness. Not upward, sideways, as if testing the limits of its cage. Then the final words came. "One lock has failed." My chain changed in my hand. The rust that had covered the original 9 links finally broke away. Underneath was black iron identical to the chains around us. 7 meters and 37 centimeters of it now rested across the floor. 5 days earlier, people had laughed because it was shorter than my arm. Now the national champion had lost his legendary ability to it. My name stood 8th in the Academy. Nearly 300 silver belongs to me, and the oldest secret beneath the kingdom had just spoken through my weapon. Neris reached the bottom of the stairs behind us. She looked at the endless chains, then at me. "Please tell me your other life was quieter." I remembered the noodle shop, the falling steel, the ceiling disappearing above my lunch. "Not really." A giant link moved in the darkness. My chain pulled toward it. And for the first time since the god of the iron chain chose me, it was not trying to bind an ability. It was pointing toward the thing that had broken free.